that's good. Okay, so basically, Ron, we just kind of want to get you on because it's been, well, I'm sure you've been bombarded with like tons of stuff, right? So I'm sure you've been telling the same story over and over and over and over as people like are approaching you and independent like questions and this kind of stuff. So we kind of just for Winnipeg, just kind of wanted to get on here and allow people some opportunities to shoot us some questions that maybe they had for you that, they don't feel that they are able to reach you. I don't know. Everybody, I guess, can email you. But so we kind of put together a little list. But before we get started, this might be the first time that people actually see who you are. There's a lot of new people coming on. So I don't know. We kind of just wanted to give you a few minutes just to explain who you are, who's Ron, and how you got into this sport, where you were before it became the CPA. And it doesn't have to go in great detail. Just maybe just shoot them a bit about who you are, and that's it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's going back in the past here.
We're going to go back a few years then. I actually started, believe it or not, I started as a competitor. Well, I think most of us have started as competitors. I think Humberto, you were probably a competitor at one time.
And I still am. So
what's that?
I still am a competitor. So
and you still are a competitor, and you're still active, which is great. Yeah. So I mean, I started off, working at a place called Vic Tanny's, which is like, I'm going back like 40, 50 years. They were kind of like the Good Life of today, and in fact, I think that's where Good Life kind of got their ideas. And Vic Tanny's was one of those franchises across Canada and the U.S., which I managed that club for a while, and at the same time used to work out on a regular basis. So yeah, I did start as a bodybuilder, competed in the local events here in Sudbury and Sault Ste. Marie and Ottawa. And back then it was, one light over you and one judge looking at you. I mean, it was pretty, it was the beginning stages, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're talking 1976. Yeah, 1976 or 76, 74 is when I started started competing actually. And then from there, I got involved in in judging the shows. So I was judging for quite a while, and then from there it just came into I started promoting events, and the shows that I promoted was here in Sudbury for many years, and it was a great experience doing that. So I was actually involved with the Ontario Physique Association, which I was an executive member and a regional director, and I just stayed involved. Some of them would come into the association and leave, but I was always consistent. It was always a passion for me to stay involved with the sport. Even after I competed and realized that I was going to go as far as I can go, which was basically winning a Northern Ontario championship. It was, I never really went to the nationals or stuff like that, but my heart was always in the sport, and I found that judging was something that I enjoyed doing and promoting. So I did a bit of both, and then eventually became president of the Ontario Physique Association, which was under the Canadian Bodybuilding Federation at that time. And we were affiliated with the IFBB International, and just continued, stayed in the sport, and never really left it. Other than I did leave I did work for Vic Tanny's for a while, then I became a firefighter. So as a firefighter, I still wanted to stay involved, so I continued working part-time, let's just say, with Vic Tanny's, and then just eventually, when Vic Tanny's was fading out basically, and I ended up buying my own club with some partners, and even to this day I still have a club. Well, I don't have a club, I have a building where it's called the Gym Fitness Center, where the owner of that fitness center now, Troy Thompson, is continually working that club, and it's still a hardcore kind of bodybuilding club. It's got all the weights and up to 200 pounds, 300-pound dumbbells. And he still has all of the high tech stuff also. So, kudos to him for keeping the club going. And, it's just great to be involved in the sport. And now I'm involved, of course, in an even bigger way in terms of, becoming an IFBB Pro judge, judging the Olympia annually, judging the Arnold Classic annually. So, it took years to get to that point, but I guess I gained the confidence of the IFBB Pro League, and there's a lot of credibility involved, and they took me in as like I'm part of the family. So it's been a long road, but I now I'm at a stage where I can really enjoy it because this is something I do basically full time. As I don't. I'm retired as a firefighter, and I'm not running a club per se. So all my focus is basically on the Canadian Physique Alliance, on promoting IFBB Pro shows, and being president of the Canadian Physique Alliance, helping grow the sport here in Canada and in Europe. Actually, I'm actually doing some stuff there also. So it's been a great road. It's been a great trip, and it's something that I'm still having fun with. So I don't plan to quit or retire. Until,
yeah, as long as it's fun.
If you guys are thinking that, no, I'm not. I'm still enjoying it. In fact, I talked to Jim Mannion about it because he's been in it even longer than I have, and he says, well, he still loves the sport, and as long as he loves it and he's having fun with it, he'll keep it going. And I feel the same way. So that's perfect. That's basically the story.
Cool. Yeah, we had a question actually. It was from Natalie. She was the head judge in Winnipeg. So that was her first shot at doing head judge last year, and we kind of it was a shotgun wedding kind of approach there, where she was thrown into a COVID mix with a 90-minute structure, and she had no idea. So she had a question. She's like, "What's it like for you?" So I'm just going to read it. It's like, "What was it like being a head judge?" I'm just going to read this here. So like, I guess being a head judge in the international stage, as well as just being a head judge period. Right. So, maybe you can describe a little bit about your job as a head judge versus like, say, the other judges in the panel. So what exactly is a head judge doing during a show versus what the other ones are doing?
Yeah. A head judge really kind of could carry the show. He really, or she really can. And kudos to Mrs. Janet. She did a great job at that event. And we went back and forth on some conversations. I mean, she was honored that she was going to head judge the event. And, she's an IFBB Pro, and she's very loyal to the Canadian Physique Alliance and the IFBB Pro League. So kudos to her to be able to do that. And apparently she did a great job, right, Ryan?
Yeah, she did good. I was on her pretty hard trying to speed things up, but she handled the pressure really well.
Yeah, considering she really didn't have that much experience, other than leaning on me for a little bit of information, which I helped her with. But the years of judging, you gain a lot of confidence, and you just get better at it. It's like something you do all the time. You just get better at it. And you need an eye for it, but as a head judge, you really have to kind of control what's going on stage and ensure that all the competitors have a good look, and all of the judges that are with you are relying on your experience to sort of guide them in the direction that we're going in judging in general. I mean, the judging has changed and the looks have changed year after year. I mean, 30 years ago, judging 30 years ago to what it is now has completely changed. Even 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, with bikini, when bikini first came out, as a judge, you were looking for the beach body, soft. There's certain things that are still the same. You still have to be beautiful and you have to have a nice presence on stage, but the look has changed. So having that opportunity to judge the IFBB Pro League, Olympia, and the Arnold Classic kind of gave me a good idea of what we're looking for or what the direction is. So a head judge, should be looking at what's going on. Not only, I mean, if they don't have an opportunity to judge these international events or IFBB Pro League events, they have to be knowledgeable on, who won the Olympia. They should be watching the videos of the high end events so that they know that, okay, that's the direction it's going. Because the trainers are looking to us to let, so they can realize exactly what they need to do to train their clients to meet the criteria that we're looking for.
Yeah, because even me, I'm getting I get messages now and then say, "Oh, who's your head judge?" Right. So
Yeah.
these are from some trainers. They want to know who the head judge is, and depending on who it is, it's like, "Okay, I'm going to go to a different show." I'm like, "What? Really?" They're like, "No." It's like I guess it depends on if they feel that they're, a lot of them are waiting to hear that it's either you or Rudy, right? Because I guess they feel because of where you guys are at internationally. So part of the question is a head judge, are you guys grouping? So me, I kind of have an understanding. So you guys are pulling that top 5 and you're basically telling the judges, okay, these are my 5, you put them in order of 1 to 5. And do the judges actually have an opportunity to score them out of that top 5? Well, let's just say they want somebody else in there, or are they kind of stuck within what you pick as that top 5?
Well, when we group them, and then maybe 5 or 6, or sometimes I know Rudy sometimes will bring 7 out, and I'll even bring out a big group. So basically, now the way it's set up now with the presentation, I mean, all of the, usually when I talk to my judges, I let them know, listen, we're going to do our presentation round. So, rather than going right to the mandatory poses first, we go to the presentation round. So that round kind of like lets the judges know, okay, who they think is the best one. So the presentation round kind of like initiates it. So I'm looking at it. The judges are all looking at that presentation round. Then we go on, then they come on stage, and it's basically for every category. Then we do the comparison rounds in the lineup. We just put them in numerical order. We haven't compared them or anything yet. So once we have them in numerical order, again, myself and all of the judges, I kind of looking at, they're trying to group them in A's, B's, and C's, let's just say, in groups of 5. If there's 15, well, they'll have an A, B, and C group. So that's when what they've seen at the presentation round, the comparison round is where they can confirm that what they saw at the presentation round makes a lot of sense. That they thought that out of the 15 that came out, there was 5 A's, 5 B's, and 5 C's, let's just say. But what happens at the comparison round, once they're all together in a lineup, then you can compare them a little bit better. So sometimes somebody that I may have picked in a B, I might put it as a B plus, let's just say. That's the way I use it. Once I see them in a lineup, then I can confirm whether or not the A's are correct and the B's are correct, and the other judges are doing the same thing. So somebody that I might look at that I'm thinking is in a second group, comparison round sometimes brings them up to the A group. Now that we've done that and we've juggled them around, then we'll bring the top 5 up, usually the top 5. Okay. And now we're going to compare them. But more often than not, even though I have my A group up, one of the judges will come up and ask, can I bring another competitor up, which was probably a close 5 or a 6 or a 7. You know what I'm saying? They were, so anybody that's kind of close will sometimes bring them up. And believe it or not, we get another chance to compare them. And that 6th or 7th that we thought should not be in that first call out gets an opportunity to really show themselves. And that's when we start comparing each other, right? So that 6th or 7th might end up being moved into a 5th or a 4th. Rarely they get moved into a first place, but it does happen that they do magic on stage. I mean, some people standing relaxed, they really don't get to express themselves as well as when they finally get to pose, especially in bodybuilding and classic physique and stuff like that. A little different with bikini and say figure and say wellness. Usually, they just have to do the quarter turns or the front and back poses, but classic and bodybuilding, they can really change their physique when they start posing.
Yeah, they harden up, dry out a little bit.
That's right. And, sometimes the more they pose, the stronger they get. And I noticed that with the IFBB Pro League, especially with the bodybuilding and classic physique, they'll kind of work them a little harder because they want to see who's got the condition to keep that shape up, to keep themselves looking sharp, to keep themselves looking strong. Some of them phase out. and it's usually the last round that decides who the winner is going to be. You know, at the beginning, you know, the winner looks obvious, and then as we continue doing comparisons, you know, the stronger ones come to the top, and the weaker ones kind of sink. So, you know, they have to work on stage, and they have to maintain their strength, their composure, their, you know, their charisma, and be able to pose during the whole thing. So yeah, the head judge kind of leads that. That's why we have like Rudy and myself. We have a lot of experience, and now we have other head judges that are coming on board, like Tammy, Paul, IFBB pro judges, Michelle Crack, and of course, you know, we have our head judge in Winnipeg that,
Yeah,
you know, I think is going to get even. And who else we have in the West? We have a couple of more head judges there, but a lot of the head judges have either judged the North Americans, which is a show with, you know, 15 to 1800 competitors, with lineups of 40 bikinis in an A class, you know.
Wow.
So you
Yeah.
see so many of them. After a while, you get better at it, and you just got to get sharp, and you got to get quick. But you have to at least, as a head judge, understand what the look is first. You have to have that base right off the bat. So
Yep.
you got to know what the look is, and then once you have that look in your head, you got to ensure that all the judges are on the same pages. And you know, it's still a choice that the judge makes. In the end, you know, we're usually on the same page. You know, there's always going to be a little bit of discussion on maybe one of them was a little bit more conditioned, the other one was less conditioned but had better lines. You just got to find that perfect match, that perfect look. The closest look to, let's just say, Olympia winners or Arnold Classic winners. You know, nobody's going to have a perfect physique, but that closest look is the look that we're looking for.
Okay, so basically, yeah, basically that 30 seconds is more important than what a lot of people may think, especially at the beginning levels, right?
Absolutely. That presentation round is very important. If they present themselves well with confidence and they have a good look, you know, that first impression is important, you know, for me to decide, okay, you know, this looks like an A or a B or a C. And then, you know, if and then once they're in the lineup again, they got to show everything that they've got. Even when they're standing and we're pulling them out for comparisons on the sidelines, you know, we're still judging them, you know, and you know, they got to stand tall, proud, and, you know, always kind of flexed, not never relaxed with your shoulders down. So every category has a different kind of look that you're looking at, and you know, we have so many categories now that, you know, every category is very important, and the head judge plays an extremely important role to ensure that the right competitor gets picked. You know, fortunately, with our regional shows, especially, you know, the lineups are usually not as big as the big pro qualifiers and that. So we can really give the competitors a chance to show themselves on stage. We'll give them a little bit more time. In a lot of cases, they're novice competitors, so we'll let them do a little bit more than the norm just to get that practice. But it's nice to see how they progress from show to show. And you know, once they have the bug and they have the confidence on stage, they'll come back and they'll do better. And that's where, you know, video critiques and stuff like that will help.
Right.
So
Right
yeah,
on.
the head judge plays a big role, not only in that, but in just ensuring that the whole we're working in partnership with the promoter. Basically, the promoter plays a big role, and the judges, and especially the head judges, has to, is basically in partnership with the promoter, with the MC, with the stat person, with the judges around them. So there's a lot of responsibility, and it makes a difference on how that show is going to be viewed by everybody that's at the event. You know, the fans and the other competitors. Everybody wants to be treated fairly, and yet, and you know, if they didn't win, they have to know why, and you need to give them a legitimate reason. If they came in second, third, last, or first, they need an explanation, and we should be able to give it to them. So you know, the head judge plays a very important role in giving them the explanation on why they didn't place or win, and also at the same time giving them some advice on, you know, what they can do to improve. or giving them a video critique that they can take to their trainer. And the trainer can look at it and say, oh, okay, I brought him in too tight, or I brought him in, too big, too soft, whatever, whatever we tell the competitor, what he or she needs to improve. So it's a challenge and it's a lot of fun. But it's a full day's work. I mean, I know I've been to the North Americans along with, Rudy and some of the other head judges, and it's a work weekend. You're there to work. You're there to judge and to give these athletes who have paid money, entry fees, training fees, tanning. I mean, they've given it all. So it's up to us to ensure that they get a fair shake. So that's basically what's involved. And it's great that we're getting these new head judges on board because we got so many shows in Canada. We just can't hit them all anymore, as you know. So that's basically it.
All right.
Right on. For the people that are perhaps unfamiliar with the different classes and levels that the Canadian Physical Alliance offers, I would like to talk about this in a little bit more detail. So we have classes such as the True Novice, the Novice, and the Open classes in the regional show. And then we have the the Pro Qualifier classes. Now, is there any difference in the judging criteria amongst these, not only the Open classes, whether it's the regional and the Pro Qualifier, but also the Novice and the True Novice, if any? Are there any differences in how you judge them, or is it kind of like a one specific look for all of them?
Yeah, well, it is exactly that. We judge everybody the same. I mean, when we have a group of say True Novice, first time competitors on stage, right? That's basically what a True Novice has never competed before. We'll judge them the same as we'd be judging any show or any category, whether it's a Pro Qualifier. I mean, we'll look at the physique and the one that has the best quality physique, the best presentation. Some of those True Novices are just naturals. They come on stage and they end up winning the True Novice, they end up winning Novice, and they go into the Open class and they win that. So what does that tell you? Some of them have been preparing for this for years, even though they never stepped on stage before. And they just, amaze us sometimes. So, but in most cases, a True Novice, they'll come in, it's their first time. Maybe the only difference is when I'm head judging a True Novice, I try to help them a lot more. If you're in a Pro Qualifier, you have experience, you should know what you're doing. You've done regional shows, you've qualified to a Pro Qualifier. We don't have to be as patient, let's just say. But when it comes to Novice and True Novice, we certainly want to give them a great experience. So I always try to be a little less, let's just say, presumptuous.
Unforgiving.
That they know what they're doing, Yeah. So, I give them some advice while they're on stage, I mean, and some of them, and I let them know at the meeting, if I'm telling you to, stand a certain way because I'm trying to help you. So if that's the question in terms of, how do we deal with them if we deal with them differently, it's in that manner in terms of being more patient, ensuring they have a good experience. This is their first time on stage. It's understandable that, they may not know exactly what to do. So we don't want to embarrass anybody on stage. Their families and friends are there. And, it's a great sport, and we don't want them to start off on the wrong foot. So if there is a difference, that would be the difference for myself anyway. And I'm sure the other head judges feel the same way.
One of the questions, actually, I just kind of want to add to that because I guess treating them different. I was just wondering, back in the old days with the introduction of all these new classes, right? So you're still getting these classes coming in now with the wellness, there used to be, especially with the CBBF and stuff like this, we used to see people or judges actually almost judging on a curve, kind of like a curve based on the show, right? If a competitor came in that was actually looked like a pro, but in this class, they almost look too big because you're almost graded based on who you stand beside. So big is relevant. You can take somebody who looks big at a regional show, stick them beside a pro, and now they're not big. But at a regional show, you're like, wow, this person, let's just use figure or even wellness or something like this, you would be like, they're almost too big. So then when they're the anomaly, like they're that one big one who literally looks professional, but everybody else would say, well, that's women's physique, or that's a little too hard for bikini. But, this year we saw even at bikini, some of these girls like Angelica was one of them who had like vascular calves, and maybe she didn't place at the top, but these women are coming in for bikini looking like razor sharp. We're like, holy crap, it's getting crazy. And women's figure are almost looking like what we have at the national level for women's physique. So at what point is there a curve? Like if someone steps on stage and just like, pow, you could compete at the Olympia, but here, so does this happen, or how are we trying to work around this, or what's, because they still have to start somewhere. And this I've seen in the past, where when women's physique didn't exist yet, and there was a women's figure girl, and she like beyond belief, like everyone's like, wow, for sure the best physique in the show, like there's no comparison. And they all said, wow, no, next year you should do women's physique because you're too big, you're too hard. I'm like, crazy, you look like you go on stage at the Olympia. So maybe this was kind of just something I'd just like to see what your thoughts are on something like that.
Well, you're right. In the past, I've seen that happen, especially, back in the day when we were, with the IFBB International, where, some of the competitors were penalized for being too big or too hard. What I find now is that, listen, if somebody comes on stage like a women's, let's just say women's physique, I mean, she comes on stage looking like a bodybuilder, well, she's in the wrong category. So, she's going to be placed lower than where she should be. And she'll be advised, listen, you should be in women's bodybuilding. Or somebody that comes on stage, a bikini competitor that looks like a figure competitor, well, of course, if she's too hard, she'll be placed down. But when it comes to bodybuilding, if you come on stage and you're big and you're hard and you look like you should be at the Olympia, you're going to win. It just doesn't matter if you're a novice or, I mean, if you fit the category and you look like you should win that category, and as I mentioned before, you get some of these true novice competitors, bikini competitors that, end up winning every class and the overall in the open. Well, they just have the perfect genetics, and, they just put it together right, and they win. Sometimes we'll get a situation in some cases where you just got to judge what's on stage. You got a bikini lineup, let's just say, and the girl that wins was really, truly, probably a little bit too extreme to have won. But if all the other competitors were just way too extreme on the other end of it, you got to find that balance and say, okay, looking at that group, what is the best of that group? And sometimes, it's perhaps the softer look with the nice proportion that's going to win, or it's an extreme look because all of the other looks are just not, they're just not bikini kind of looks. So if somebody comes on stage and they look like they should be in a pro qualifier or they should be at the pro level, they're going to win. They should win. I mean, especially bodybuilders. You get somebody on stage that comes in and, he weighs in at 225 and he's shredded and big and has nice lines, and everybody else looks like they're in a different show. Well, you just place them first, put them aside. Now let's judge these other ones, second, third, fourth, and fifth. I know that's the way I judge it, and I believe most of the head judges,
Yeah, bodybuilding is that easy one.
That's an easy one. You're right.
The biggest, the leanest, off you go. It's those other ones, and that's kind of where I was more focused on, because now women's wellness has just emerged, right? So now, looking back at last year's shows, I'm just watching even from all the other regional shows and this kind of stuff. You're seeing some physiques that have won wellness who are now basically moving forward as what is deemed the poster of like what is acceptable in wellness. And some of them don't always fit, right? You're looking at them and be like, it's not really wellness, but it was the best they had at that show, right? So I guess as long as we know that the judges are judging the the athletes based on what the pros look like, not what is on stage in front of them. That was majority my question, is that that's kind of how things go.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's just that sometimes, you know, you'll get a lineup, say, of wellness on stage, and they just, none of them look like the pros. So, you know, you got to kind of look at, okay, the look that we are going, that eventually they will have should be this. And if somebody's a little bit more conditioned than they should be, but has that wellness look with the full legs, full glutes, and, you know, a nice upper body, then, you know, that particular person is going to win. But for those, you know, the bikini and the figure, and listen, at the regional shows, as you guys are aware, we have a lot of competitors that are testing themselves. They don't know what category they belong, so they'll do a bikini and a figure, or they'll do a women's physique and a bodybuilding, or a women's physique and a figure. So that kind of dictates the category they should be leaning into.
And then it gets confusing when they win both, and you're like,
well, unfortunately, that does happen. But again, you know, I mean, if you've been at these shows where that has happened, you got to look at the other physiques that are there.
Yeah, the numbers of athletes are usually fairly low.
Yeah, that dictates it a lot. Sometimes, you know, a women's physique is maybe a little bit hard for figure, but a little soft for women's physique, but she's still the best in both. Well, you know, she's going to end up winning it. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. But there's still you know, when she comes to a head judge and she says, listen, I've won both categories, what should I do? Well, as a head judge, you know, you just have to ask a few questions, and you can tell by looking at the physique that she hasn't reached her potential yet. And her potential will either be in one or the other. And you can kind of tell by the physique that, listen, you got that physique look, you know, keep working in that area. And I think that's going to be the look that's going to fit your body best. Or, you know, you got more of a figure look, you know, just, you know, focus on that, soften up a little bit, whatever it is that they need to do. So, you know, we try to give them the right advice. Genetics play a role. Of course, training and diet influences the genetics a lot also, but genetics usually play a big role. And, you know, and same with women's wellness. I mean, that's an easy one. I mean, sometimes they're just genetically, physically made for the wellness division. You know, they've got the full glutes, the full legs. They just, you know, it just fits good for them. So we're fortunate that we are introducing wellness, and there's going to be pro cards for that. And, you know, I think that's going to be a very popular category for the future.
Yeah, this is the first year that the Olympia is going to accept it in. And
yeah, it's going to be at the Olympia. A big role that the head judge and judges have to play is they have to try to control the sport in terms of rewarding those that actually belong in that category. And I think the reason why we've added a lot of categories is that we've been rewarding those that are getting more. We're just kind of conditioned to look at athletes that are in real good condition or really lean. We're just conditioned that way, and it's hard to hold back. So I think the judges now are, even in bikini, you know, we're getting more and more extreme. But now I see from what the Olympia and from our head judge, you know, Tyler, for one, they're really kind of holding back a bit. You know, they don't want the extreme look, but they do want the nice, athletic, firm look for bikini. And same thing with the figure. You know, they're looking more at the whole package. And I've seen it when I go to the Olympia. I mean, it's easy for a judge to fall into that trap where the hardest person has got to win. It's just something that you got to hold back on, and you got to be aware of it. And it's part of the learning curve when the new judges come on board. And it's and the head judge, who should be the senior judge there, who's got all that experience, you know, people like Rudy and myself. And, you know, we got Tammy Beckers, we have a lot of judges that have that experience, that have judged some of the major events across Canada and the US. Those are the ones that are going to help the judges. And you know, some of the judges just have that eye for it. It's not like you have to be a competitor or to have been in the sport for years and years, or to have been an IFBB pro that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great head judge or a great judge, or the fact that you've been in the sport for years. Some of the judges that come on board just have that eye, and that they understand the sport and they understand the look, and they can pick it out. And that's so sometimes we'll get a new judge that comes on board and picks it up right away. They just seem to have that knack. But the more experience you get, the better you're going to get at it, and then the more fair the outcome of the show will be.
Yeah, experience. That's actually the next question. I was going to talk about like the nationals and all that kind of stuff that happened, but I think we'll skip ahead because I'm sure you beat that to death with a lot of people asking you how like the whole process of what happened. And so the question that I kind of had was, because we're talking about experience, so much that we're seeing now is a lot of the athletes are trying to do this one show to turn pro, method. And I just kind of want to know your thoughts on this. There's so many regional shows, and the fact that the CPA allows you to compete anywhere across Canada, but yet you still see people sticking to their kind of regionals, because I think we're still stuck in this whole, I'm from Manitoba, I got to go with what's there, and I'm from here, and everyone's kind of sticking within the clique. Obviously with Canada, we're really spread out. So to fly anywhere costs an arm and a leg, where in the US, everyone's just kind of moving around. You got like tons of shows within a state. So there's a little bit difference. And I see that sometimes the Americans have a little bit of an advantage because they're doing multiple shows before they make it to that pro, and they've had the experience. Where we're here, and that it's a two-part question. Like, what are your thoughts about doing multiple shows before trying to get to your pro qualifier? And then what is the most common mistake that you kind of come across the most, like when you're judging people? It's like it's the mistake that people just seem to keep making. So I guess it's a two-part question.
Yeah. Well, first off, back in the day, if you remember, I mean, in order to get to a pro qualifier, I mean, you just got to go back like 5-6 years, really. You had to do your regional show here in Ontario anyway. And I think all the provinces were in the same boat. You had to do a regional show. From there, you would do your provincial event. And then the top three, I think at that time, or top five from the provincial event could go to the Canadian National Pro Qualifier. And there was only one at the time. I think there was Canadian National Pro Qualifier and the Natural Canada. At the Canadian National Pro Qualifier, there was one overall winner. So just getting out of the Ontarios was tough, because it was so competitive here in Ontario. And then you went to the Canadas, and if you didn't place in I believe in the top five at that time, you had to go back to your provincial championship. So it was tough to get a pro card back in the day. Now we've opened it up. I mean, now you don't have to do the provincials, right? You just basically do a regional show. You place in the top three, and that qualifies you right to a pro qualifier. And from the pro qualifier, the overall, it's still the overall winners, but we're now giving overall cards for Masters and Open. And there's a lot more pro qualifiers: Canadian National Pro Qualifier, Toronto Pro Qualifier, Vancouver Pro Qualifier, the Ben Weider Natural Pro Qualifier. So we've really expanded. I mean, I think the competitors, compared to where we were like 5 times better than what in terms of getting that opportunity for a pro card. But I find that a lot of the competitors are trying to get there too quickly. They'll do one regional show, and they're at a pro qualifier a month later, and they're thinking they should win a pro card at the pro qualifier. They go there, they just won a regional show, the overall, they're on top of the world. They go to a pro qualifier, and boom, they're like 4th call out, 3rd call out. So it's a real downer for them. What I would recommend for a lot of the athletes, or a lot of competitors, is listen, do a couple of regional shows. Once you qualify, it doesn't matter how many regional shows you do after that, your qualification won't be taken away. So if you qualify in the spring, and say you want to go to the nationals this year, which is going to be in the fall, right, in November. Well, you got all of these regional shows anywhere in Canada that you can hit. In the past, you had to stick to your own province. I mean, you couldn't do a regional show outside your province. Now it's opened up, even, Manitoba. But I mean, you're not far. You got shows in Thunder Bay, which is next to Manitoba. You got shows in Regina. So there's all kinds of shows, and if you're willing to travel a little bit, you should be able to hit 2 regional shows. So yeah, the biggest mistake they do is they try to get there too quickly, and then then it's right back to the drawing board. They know that the following year they'll have to do another regional show, and then from that regional show, again, they gotta hit the pro qualifier. I think getting some experience. I mean, if you especially first time competitors, it's great that they're doing these novice and true novice events because those are just for bragging rights. And I've seen a lot of them come in, and we try to encourage them to do an open event also, or a natural open event. Do the novice, but also do an open so you can qualify. But some of them, they stick to their guns. They just want to do the novice. They want to get their feet wet. And if they do win, then they know that, hey, next time I go to another regional show, I'll hit an open event and try to qualify and work my way up. But one thing about Canada, though, we do bring a lot of competitors to the North Americans, and we are a force to be reckoned with because when we get over there, I mean, the North Americans, it's all of the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, right? Yeah. And when we show up there, we do really well in terms of pro cards because we bring a lot of quality there. I mean, when they're coming to our nationals, they still have to be the overall winner. It's not class winners that get pro cards. And some of our classes, second place. I mean, sometimes you'll look at all of the winners from the bikini class or even the bodybuilding class. They're all lined up there. You kind of feel that, you're going to pick one overall winner in the open class, but out of that lineup of all winners, whether it's a super heavyweight, a heavyweight, and a light heavyweight, the 3 of them could possibly win a pro card as the North Americans. And the same thing happens with the bikinis. They give cards for each class, so they got a better chance. So we bring we have a lot of quality. And I mean, look at the Olympia this year. We had three we had 3 winners from Canada. Yeah. Our fitness, our classic physique.
Classic physique, yeah.
And who was our third one? We had a second place in bikini. So we had
yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and our fitness competitor, So she's a pro from Ontario, and began her fitness career here in Canada, starting here in Northern Ontario, and then she competed. I believe she competed at our show at the Toronto Pro Qualifier one year, but she ended up moving to the U.S. But she is a Canadian competitor.
Is this Missy Truscott?
Yeah, she's one of our girls. So we had really we have 3 winners. I mean that's something.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
We're pretty proud of that. So we've done well. I mean, Canada is well known. We're very well respected across in the U.S. and for that matter around the world, and they know who we are. And as you know, it all started here with Ben and Joe Weider. I mean, this is where they were born. So that there's a lot of history here in Canada, and we're very well respected.
Yeah, so they basically the message is just make sure you put in the work and try not to skip steps. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get the odd one that might do the first time regional. Well, usually it's not a first time regional competitor, but you get the odd one that just has that great quality. They do the regional show. They come to a pro qualifier. They do fairly well. They don't win the pro card, but they place in the top 5, so it gives them an opportunity to come back. I'll often see a first-time competitor place at a pro qualifier, maybe in the top 10, and now they're all excited about going to the North Americans. Like,
yeah,
in reality, go back to the drawing board and try to place higher at least top 5, or even try to win your class. If you don't win your pro card at the Canadian Pro Qualifier or the Toronto Pro Super Show, whatever pro qualifier we have here, if you don't win your pro card, but you were a winner of your class, well then the North Americans is a great stepping stone for you to get a pro card.
Yeah.
But, when you show up there and you're not even in the top 10 and you want to hit the North Americans, I would probably recommend go back to the regionals, do another pro qualifier, get some experience, and then take it from there.
Yeah, I feel like that overall, since it changed, right? Like back in the day, that overall used to give you that lifetime buy. And
Yeah.
that's kind of changed people's mentality now. So now people are like, man, that's why they come first, second, or third, and they feel like they can get now to the pro qualifier because there was no point fighting for that overall. But I still tell people, I'm like, if you can't win an overall at a regional show, I'm like, unless you were basically going in that regional show just to kind of like put your foot on the stage so that you can, you're not coming in 100% and that your main goal is that pro qualifier, say maybe 2 weeks down the road, and you didn't want to peak twice. But, I feel that win that overall and then now, okay, you have something, but.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you can win that overall, then you really you're on your way. When you hit a pro qualifier, you go there with a lot of confidence, and if you won the overall at a regional show and you go to a pro qualifier and you place in the top 5, I mean that's amazing. And if you win, because you got to remember a lot of the competitors at a pro qualifier, as you know, have placed in the top 5 and are coming back. Might be the third time back. They play second, third, fourth. So you're just a newcomer who had won an overall at a regional show. You're going up against competitors that have been there 3 or 4 times because they continually placed in the top 5. So
Or you get that odd Ron Partlow who's been over and over and over and over.
Exactly. So there's some good caliber there, and
yeah, there's a few times he should have won there, but
yeah, it becomes very competitive. But we're really fortunate, and you're right. Back in the day, as you remember, if you won the overall at a regional show, you had a lifetime buy to the provincials, and if you won the overall at the provincials, you had a lifetime buy to the Canadas or the pro qualifier. Well, those days are over now. You win the overall at a regional show, you go to the pro qualifier, you don't place in the top 5, you're going back to your regional show to requalify. So, we want them to work a little bit for it. We just don't want.
Yeah, that means that there's still something that's missing, right? If you can't make that top 5, you're not quite there. So go back, perfect your thing, and
that's right. Yeah, and in a lot of cases, they go back and they just get better at it and they get more confident, and eventually they place in the top 5. Now they got that top 5 position. They know that they don't have to go back to a regional show. They can just focus now on that one show, that one pro qualifier. They've earned the right for placing in the top 5. And then hopefully, they get a chance to win and perhaps, even win an overall and get a pro card.
I have a question actually about judging. For someone that may be interested in becoming a judge, what is the screening process or criteria that takes place for someone to become a judge?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we've had a lot of people that have been wanting to judge. I mean, we have, especially trainers, and they'd probably be great judges because they're trainers. The only problem with that is the potential for conflict of interest, So, some of the trainers will call us, and that's my first question. And, listen, are you a trainer? Yes. Do you train athletes? Yes. To compete? Yes, I do. Well, listen, rather than being a judge, why don't you become an ambassador like yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Why don't you become an ambassador? That way there you're involved in the sport and you can help athletes and, we'll support you and you support us. So basically, if you want to become a judge, we ask the person that's interested in doing this to send us their resume. In a lot of cases, it's either an athlete that has competed for years, they volunteer at shows, they've been at many events, they want to stay involved. So, we love to give them an opportunity. And then especially in some areas in Canada where, we're lacking judges, or we do have judges, but we got to fly them in and it's just an overwhelming cost for the promoters, right? So, we like to get the locals involved as much as possible. So once they send us a resume, we'll, Rudy and I will have a look at the resume and, we'll see what they've done. And in some cases, we'll let them know that, listen, you've only been to one show, seriously. Hit a few more shows, send us a resume in a year or two from now. You know, if you've attended a lot of shows and you know you're involved in the sport and you're volunteering at a lot of shows also, well, those are all kudos. They're all points for you. From there, we'll give them an opportunity to either test judge a regional show just to see how well they can do, or we'll have them attend a regional show, and you know they'll follow our lead. We'll give them some advice on what they should be looking for. But in a lot of cases, test judging is the important criteria. But in order to become a judge, test judging a regional show is usually not enough. Because in a lot of cases, it's not a huge event. There's 2-3 competitors in each class, or there might be 4 or 5 competitors. And as you're aware, you know, a lot of them will just follow the lead that the head judge does. You know, they see one in the middle, they place him first, so they just follow the lead. So to make it a little bit more honest, what we recommend, or what we actually tell them to do, is to come to a pro qualifier on their own expense. And what they'll do is they'll test judge the pro qualifier, but instead of placing the athletes, what we'll do is we'll ask them for their top 5, you know, okay, before, you know, if there's a lineup of 25, 30 people there, we want to see your top 5. So if they can at least do that, that gives us a good idea that they know what they're doing, you know, and along with that, we'll want them to place them also. So, you know, they'll sit behind us. There's a lot of pressure on them. They'll pick their top 5 as soon as we do the presentation round, and then we'll do the lineup without, you know, in numerical order like we usually do. They got to give us their top 5. And, you know, if they're getting 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, that's a pretty good indication that, okay, this person has some potential. We'll give that person an opportunity to become a judge. So, you know, they'll judge a show, perhaps a regional event. And again, the head judge is always kind of mentoring these new judges on board. So they'll have an opportunity to actually judge. And in some cases, you know, we may have some extra judges, so they may just be an alternate judge just to get things started. So we'll see what their scores are. And if their scores are in line with the other judges, you know, they'll get to actually judge the scores. But as you know, whether we're going with 5 judges, which is, you know, the norm for regional events, or 7 judges, or even 9 judges, we eliminate the highs and lows to try to keep everything in balance. And in most cases, it works out. It works out good. But yeah, there's a little bit of pressure for these newcomers, but the ones that are really dedicated, you know, they're willing to do that. They're willing to test judge. They're willing to come at their own expense, and that tells us that, okay, you know, they're serious about this, and they want to stay involved with the sport because it's a lot of fun. And at some point, that particular judge will eventually get the experience. And who knows, maybe one day, you know, head judge one of the events. So that's basically how it's done. It's not like a written test. You know, they literally have to be there to physically judge.
An online test, yeah.
Yeah. It's
one
not
of my
like an ambassador test, Umberto.
Yeah. One of my questions was sorry, we were talking over each other. Now with the muscle wear and stuff, I was kind of looking at how it's set up. And I remember at one point there was talks about like a point system. Because I'm not, now that you're aware that me and Humberto were with the NPC, so we're seeing like a lot of differences in how things are moving, and we're looking, you know, there's now even our show in Cancun, they're going to start presenting the athletes with their certificate to say that, you know, eventually if it becomes a mandatory show, like a tier system, right? Because right now in Cancun, there is no tier system. They don't even have to do our Cancun show. They just go straight to the pro qualifier. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. It's this one show and they're trying to all be pros, right? You'd have no idea how many messages we get. It's like, oh, is this a pro show? And we're like, no, it's a regional. They're like, ah, you know, so it's the mentality. They think that they're going to be pro right off the hop. But with a tier system, I think there was even talks about that kind of here in Canada. Is there anything about that? Like if you win the overall, you get X amount of points. Is this still something that you guys are still working towards, or is this something that we really can't talk? Because if we can't talk about it, I can eliminate this from the
there's been absolutely no discussion about that. We're basically, I think, you know, we're running like NPC and CPA, you know, we're kind of like together, you know, we're under that umbrella, but all the other countries may be a little bit different, but there's no point system. They're happy with the way we're running things here in Canada. So they're, you know, if it's not broken, why fix it? I know there's a point system. Dwayne Johnson, as you know, The Rock was going to run a show last year, and it didn't happen. And I believe I don't think it's happening this year either.
I think they moved it. I mean, they haven't said if it was going to happen or not, but they changed it.
They canceled. They moved to 2020.
So, you know, there was a point system to actually compete in that event.
Okay.
And they were asking us, you know, the top 5 from all our regional shows and the winners. And we were CPA was getting that information out in 2019 to MPC. And it was a point system in order to compete in that particular event. But the show's been canceled like 2 years now. So, you know, eventually they're going to have it. I'm hoping 2022, and there may be a point system for that. But when it comes to the way we have the system in place here, it's not going to change. I feel pretty confident we're just going to maintain. And NPC, not NPC Worldwide, but NPC USA, they kind of have basically the same system we have. You know, the regional shows, you're qualified for 1 year. We're kind of following NPC guidelines. You know, maybe we tweaked a few little things, but we're very, very close to what NPC USA does. And the CPA kind of runs hand in hand with them. Now, all the other countries, you know, a little bit different. I mean, even in France, you know, we're going to be running 5 regional shows and a couple of pro qualifiers. I mean, other countries can actually compete in our regional shows. They can compete there, but they don't qualify anywhere. So, I mean, if you're from another country and you want to compete in a regional show, because they're just building it in Europe and perhaps in Mexico is the same deal. You can compete at a regional event, but you don't qualify anywhere.
What about here in Canada? If someone wants to come from the States, do we recognize their NPC card?
No. NPC, CPA, we're like the NPC. We have the CPA card, which is recognized worldwide. You can use that CPA card to compete at the Amateur Olympia, at the North Americans.
No, even at Cancun, at Cancun, you have CPA membership cards.
Well, if anybody from Canada competes in Cancun, you know, they'll need a CPA membership, not an NPC Worldwide membership. It's recognized around the world. So as long as they got a CPA membership, they can use it. Now, I'm not sure what the criteria. I know that a lot of countries that have pro qualifiers, in order for anybody from Canada to compete there, they need to get a permission from us, or they need to have at least competed in one of our shows first. Mm-hmm. You know, usually, you know, one of our pro qualifiers. Now, most of the countries, provided they competed in a regional show, you know, they can compete at a pro qualifier somewhere. But there's a certain numbers of countries, and we're one of them, where they need to have permission to compete at a pro qualifier in another country. Now, the Amateur Olympia in the past, and the Amateur Arnold's in the past, you can go directly to those events without having, provided you had an NPC membership or a CPA membership, you can go right to those events. Now, what they're recognizing is they want competitors going to the Amateur Olympia or the Amateur Arnold's to have at least competed at, you know, one of our regional shows before they can go to those pro qualifiers. Especially here in Canada. I mean, there's no reason why they can't hit a pro qualifier here first. You know, we don't want to bypass our pro qualifiers, and we don't want anybody bypassing our regional shows. I mean, the promoters are out there, they're working their butt off to try to put these shows on. And if competitors are not doing the regional shows, well, you know, you won't be able to put them on, right? And we're well invested here in Canada. We got over 55 events, just like the US. I think per capita, we probably got more shows than any other country per capita, even compared to the US in terms of population per capita. We have a lot of shows, and we probably have the highest per capita. So there's no reason why somebody from Canada should go to another country to compete. They have to do one of ours first, and I won't allow it. You know, as long as they do the regional shows here, and even the even the North Americans, they need to do a pro qualifier. So, we have some guidelines, but I think we've really opened it up compared to where it was years ago. And it's about trying to give as much opportunity to the competitor as possible. And I think we've done that here in Canada.
Yeah, it makes sense. It gives them the experience too. So, like I said, takes away that one show to go pro kind of idea. So,
yeah,
we're getting close on time, but I'll give the last question to Humberto, and if you have one.
Actually, I have. I mean, Ron, you are an experienced promoter, and as Ryan mentioned before, I'm going to be promoting my first show with him in Cancun. Do you have any advice for a rookie promoter such as myself going into my first venture in Cancun, Mexico?
Well, fortunately, you got Ryan as your partner, right? He's got a little bit of experience. But I'll tell you what, I mean, budget is important. You have to know your community. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on you because that's somewhere that you're familiar with.
Yep.
I think if you treat the competitors right and you stay within a certain budget, you ensure the competitors have a great experience. If in a lot of cases they don't need big prizes. If you give them some nice medals and some nice awards, they're really going to love it. You're running a regional show there, correct? Both you and Ryan?
Correct.
And it's basically for bragging rights, or is it qualifying them to anything?
As Ryan mentioned, this year they're not going to employ the tier system, not yet. So it's you could say.
I think that's great, but I mean, because MPC worldwide, wants to have more of an influence in Mexico, and you guys being there is very important to them. And I think if you put in some effort in creating some nice novice and beginner lineups along with the open categories, I think you're going to have some great numbers. You really want to focus on try to get as many competitors at your event as possible. I know that in terms of finances for Mexico, I don't know the country that well, that the entry fees may be a little different than here in Canada. But if you can meet you got to be humble the first time. You can't go huge, is what I'm trying to say. Keep the venue reasonable. Be fair in terms of what you're going to charge for entry fees and what you're going to charge for spectators to watch the show, and get that relationship going with your venue, with your sponsors. Get involved with that community, and if you plan to run an annual event in that particular community, it's only going to grow. So the first year, if you can come out of that event breaking even and everybody had a great experience, that's total success. It really is. So coming out of it with a little bit of profit so that you can build for the future years is even better. But that would be my advice to you. Just
awesome. Thank you very much. Focus
on that, and I think you'll do just fine.
Yeah, now if we can just get this travel ban lifted so that we don't get stuck in Cancun.
Well, that right now. I mean, obviously last year was a disaster, and I don't want to go through it. I mean, it's something that I just want to put behind us, and we want to move forward.
Yeah.
But we were all hoping that 2021 is like, hey, this is the year. But we are committed here in Canada, and I know all the promoters, the regional promoters, and I think our first show is going to be in May. Some of the promoters have moved their shows to try to make sure that we can run it. But I think every promoter here in Canada wants to run their show. They got an A plan, a B plan, and a C plan. I mean, even us with the pro qualifiers, if I have to run that show in a tent, we're going to make it happen. And I'm sure Ryan, as a promoter, and yourself, Humberto, this year we really feel the pressure that we have to run these shows. Competitors have been waiting too long. They've been getting ready, and last year, a lot of them got burnt, and we don't want to let them down this year. So, I kind of feel we're not going to have the biggest numbers like 2019. I think 2022 is when things are really going to start to roll again. But I believe as promoters, we're going to get these shows done. For sure. I really feel confident that it's going to happen, and it should be a good year for the competitors coming on board.
Yeah, let's hope.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, well, that's basically it. We just kind of want to get you on here so people can see who you are and get a few questions answered. But thanks for joining us and taking time out of your evening to speak with us.
I enjoyed it. It was nice talking to you guys, and looking forward to being in Winnipeg, seeing your shows over there, and who knows, maybe I'll take a trip to Mexico if things open up. And,
That would be
Exactly.
nice.
Right? All right, take care, and we'll
Thank
be
you,
in
Ron.
touch. All
Have
right,
a good night.
take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye for now.